side of my house. Okay, this is one side of my house, so you can see what one side of it looks like, and we'll start from there. Let's see what I have to do here to get to here. All right, so it was 2017 when I started on this. Our kids were finally starting to get a little bit bigger. And I was reviewing utilities to make sure that everything was up to date. We had good rates on everything. And I discovered that, much to my horror, that while I was not paying as careful attention to my electric bill as I needed to, they kept up in my rate, and that my rate was not competitive with what I had. And I had Green Mountain, which I really liked because I wanted a clean energy source. And that's one of the reasons why I was just staying with them. But at that point, it became clear that it was time to look around and make a change because they were just too expensive. So I started looking, and I discovered Sunrun, and I started thinking about, what we needed to do to make something like this happen. And I started talking to them. And of course, one of the first things that you find out is that it's a 6-month process from the time you decide to do it to the time that it's installed. Okay. And there are also criteria back at least in 2017, there were criteria for what you needed to have in order to qualify to get this, even if you did the 6-month process to put it in. So one of the criteria was that you had to own your own home. They didn't want to mess with mortgage companies, and they wanted homeowners only. Okay. In order to get the most out of the system, your house couldn't face north. So as it turns out, we own our home and our house did not face north. So we were in luck. Okay. The next thing was that you had to have homeowners association approval for this. Because we live in a homeowners, I personally live in a neighborhood that is monitored by a homeowners association. Now, right now, this probably wouldn't be a big deal for you to get. Okay, this is probably one of the positive changes that have occurred over time. But in 2017, I was the first neighborhood in the family, first house in the neighborhood to apply for this. Now, as far as I'm concerned, looking at a roof tile versus looking at a solar panel, there's not a lot of difference. They're both just, they're just panels. It didn't matter so much to me, and I liked the idea of the house having its own clean energy source on the roof. I didn't think it looked too bad. My homeowners association didn't agree. And it took 3 months to resolve that issue and get them to agree that this would be acceptable. And we went back and forth several times until they finally said, we're gonna let you try this. Okay. The next thing, and this is also a big deal. So the two things that were really a big deal for us, okay, were getting that homeowners approval. And then the other thing is that, and they tell you this up front, but Sunrun, the provider, designs your system. They come out, they look at your house, they look at your usage, they take pictures of your house, they know what your roof looks like, and they have software in-house that takes your house dimensions and where it's located and which way it faces, and it optimizes the panel design. So they know from their software where your panels need to go and how many you need and what you need. And they come back and they present you, after they've been out looking at your home, a little while later, they present you with a design. This is the number of panels, and this is where they're going to go, and this is what your house is going to look like with these panels on it. So I was fine with that. I understand that they need to maximize power generation with as few panels as possible, and their software tells them how to do it. And I was just fine with that. I didn't have any problems with it. But the homeowners association will try to dictate where the panels can go and where the panels can't. And sometimes the homeowners themselves also try to tell the provider, which is in this case Sunrun, that they don't want it here, they don't want it there, they don't want to see it. Okay, I didn't care. I just wanted the system to work, so they didn't have a problem with me. But there were some panels near the front of the house that depending upon what angle you looked at this, that kind of side front, you could see those 3 panels. Unfortunately, those 3 panels generate 40% of the power that the house generates. So the homeowners association again tried to say, no, you can't do that again. So we went into another round of back and forth until finally we were able to get everyone to agree that the system is designed by the provider, which in this case was Sunrun, was okay. And we were just going to go with it. There were only 3 panels on the side and the front. They really weren't that noticeable because we have shrubs and trees, and we were finally able to convince the homeowners association that that would be, there's only 3 panels. It's on the side. You can barely see that, it's okay. So the way this worked in 2017 was that the provider, which is Sunrun, they pay for the equipment in the installation. And that means all the equipment, the panels and the boxes and anything that they need to run, and they put it in. And in exchange, you make a standard monthly payment, and you know what that amount is. And it only goes up by inflation across a 20-year contract, which pays off the system and also gives them, gives them some money. And the way that it works is that they put in more panels than what you actually need to generate an excess of power. And they take the excess power that your house doesn't use, and they sell that back to CenterPoint. And they basically use your house as real estate, panel real estate, and the excess money that they generate goes back to the grid, and they're able to sell that, and that's their profit. And it works out well for you because it's clean power and you get a low flat monthly rate. And it works out well for them because they get to use your house as panel real estate, and they get to sell the extra power that your house generates to CenterPoint to make some money. So it looks, it looked like a really great deal. It is a really good deal. We went for it, and I'm fine with that. We're not going anywhere. We're homeowners. We're committed. We're going to be here for 20 years. We're not going to go anywhere. So it was a good deal for us, and we were happy to sign up for that. Okay, it's clean energy, and they have an app. You can get on the app or on the website at any time, and you can monitor how your system is doing and see. You can watch across the 20 years what it's generating and what it's doing. And we went into this sign process during the summer, and sure enough, I looked it up, November 2nd of 18, we finished the panels. They came out and they installed everything and got everything ready, and we were ready to go. And we ran happily like this for 2 years, really 2 years. We really didn't have a problem. The only thing is we discovered that we thought our panels were connected to our home. And one of the things that happened was we got a little surprise. The panels were actually connected to the grid. And what was actually happening was that the solar panels were generating power, and they were sending it out to the grid, and the house was pulling back from the grid whenever it needed. And so what we realized is that whenever the grid was down, we were down as well. So, at the time we were a little dismayed to figure this out, but we realized that this house rarely loses power. Even through Hurricane Ike and Harvey, we had power and everything. And we'll have an occasional power outage here, but it's really not that bad. So we weren't, at the time, we're a little disappointed, but not too upset about it. And you can see in the picture here, this is the panels on the back side of the house. So on the front side, there was the side, this is the back. And you can see this starting in 2018, we go along, and this is what we're generating until we get to very recently where it goes to 0, which I will get to in just a short time. So we were all right with this. We liked the clean energy, and it was generating enough power for us, but we went into quarantine, and then we had, snowbid come in as well. And of course the grid goes down. We don't have any power or heat. And the solar panels were generating power, but they were grounding it. And it was just, we started to realize that this wasn't really the best situation. We have to we have to try harder than this. We have to do better than this. And we knew that Sunrun was installing batteries with their new system. So I called them, and after Snowvid, they were contacting us regularly. You know, our new systems have batteries. We're going to get you on a wait list, and we're going to come out and put the battery on the house, and then you won't have these problems anymore. And that to us sounded like the absolute best solution. Their newer models came with the battery. We'll just get ours upgraded and we will be fine. So we went on a wait list, and as you know from talking to me, I went off to work on other projects. I went off to remodel the bathroom upstairs, and David decided to put a shed out back, and we got busy with other things, and then we kind of forgot about it for just a little bit, and it got to be summertime, and I started to think about, well, wait a minute, now I'm not hearing from them anymore. It's funny that we're still on this wait list. The other thing that's on here is that we realized that it was going to take a little while for us to get whatever changes to the system in and installed. And we also saw that because of quarantine, now everybody was home a lot more. So our power usage had actually increased. So now, instead of them having a huge excess of power to sell back to CenterPoint, now we were largely using the excess that we were generating, but at least we weren't pulling from the grid. So we thought about what we wanted to do, and we knew we definitely wanted to get batteries on the system, but we decided we probably ought to get some other things too. So one of the things I realized is that our portable phone chargers were out of date. I had one with a USB-C, but all our phones are USB-C. So I went out and I got a couple different USB-C chargers. And I also got a Jackery solar generator as well, that will handle, first of all, if anything happens before the system could be changed, as well as take some of the stress off the system. If we have a power failure now, because we're all home more, we're using more power. So the extra generator, which can be charged through a wall outlet, it can be charged by cigarette lighter, vehicle charge, or it can be charged by these panels, that these solar panels that are pictured. That would also it would either be what we had if we didn't have the battery, or it would offload some of the stress from the battery. So summertime came, it was about June, and we realized we still hadn't heard from Sunrun about the wait list. And I gave them a call, and they told me, you don't have to worry about that. Our batteries are for new systems only. And I said, okay, I was talking to David about it later, and he said, did they mention that you're still on the wait list? And I said, no, they just reminded me the batteries are for new systems only. So he said, maybe they changed. Maybe the reason why they're not calling us and talking to us about where we are in the wait list is because they've changed their minds. It's a lot of work to put in and modify an existing system. And maybe they have changed their minds about wanting to do it. The marketing emails on the topic had stopped. Maybe the situation is different for them. So I said, all right, I'll call them again tomorrow and see what they say. So I called them the next day and I said, are we specifically on the wait list for a battery, and where are we on the wait list? And then they admitted that they had changed their minds and they were no longer going to install the batteries on the system. But they said, our system is compatible with the Tesla batteries. And if you use an authorized Tesla dealer and you submit the appropriate legal paperwork, you can modify your existing system. So I said, all right, we're going to try to do that. That's what we're going to do, because I don't want to go through any more power outages without something, especially when we already have the panels on the roof. This could definitely do it. And you see in the picture, there's my two girls outside in Snowbird. They love playing in the snow. They had a good time until it got dark. Okay, so then I looked online, and the #1 Tesla dealer right now for solar battery power is Sunnova. So I contacted Sunnova, and they said, wow, where have you been? We've been putting these batteries on existing systems now for a while, and we have done a ton of them since Novit. This is one of the things that we're doing, and we've done a whole batch of them, and we're surprised you're just calling us now. But I had to tell them, well, Sunrun doesn't want to modify our system. They just don't want to do it. So I need someone else to do it. So they said, great. So they came out and they took a look at our system. They sent a drone up to take pictures and everything. It was pretty cool. And they said, yeah, you just need 2 Tesla batteries. You don't need homeowners association approval for this because we're modifying an existing system, and the batteries are going to be in the garage, so they're not going to be seen from the street. So we don't have to worry about homeowners association approval this time. And what we'll do is we'll connect these batteries to your panels, and instead of the panels sending the energy back to the grid, it will send the energy to these 2 batteries, and your house will run on the batteries. We will pay for all the equipment and installation, but and the way they automatically do it, they just automatically finance it over 15 years. I'm not happy with that. I'm okay. I mean, I was okay with it. We got it done, but we're going to pay it off next year. It's just going to be done. I don't want to have another thing that drags on for years. The Sunrun payment replaces the electric bill, so I'm fine with that. But in this case, this is an add-on, and I'm just going to pay it off next year. But you can pay it off however you want. You can pay it off all at once. You can pay it off next year. You can make the payments over 15 years. You can do whatever's best for you. And that's flexible, and that's good. So that was fine with me. It's possible that the house can still generate more power than what you need. Right now with quarantine, that's not happening here. We're using what we're generating. But if it does, the batteries can send the power back to the grid for sale. They did tell me that it was going to be 5 months. It's going to be a 5-month wait for this. We will be lucky to get this in by Thanksgiving, but I was still okay with that because it doesn't start to really get cool here until after Thanksgiving. So I was like, you know what, if we act now, we can get this done and we don't have to worry so much about winter, but we are going to have to go through hurricane season with just the Jackery solar generator. So we went through the paperwork, and the important thing here is that I submitted all the legal paperwork along with the Sunnova insurance paperwork to Sunrun, so that Sunrun understood that their system had been modified by someone else, and that if there were any problems, they could go to Sunnova and they can file an insurance claim and they can get that done. So that all got done. Oddly enough, within about a month, Sunnova called me and said, boy, there's been an act of God. Even though it's only been a month, we've received a shipment of Tesla batteries, and we are ready to install now. And it was a 2-day installation. You can see this is my side of the garage, which is nice and clean. There's 2 Tesla batteries here. There's an extra box, and this is the edge of the inverter box, which is right here. And then the garage door is right here. So then we moved on to this, and let me tell you how nice this is. The whole thing is also controlled by a Tesla app, which you install on your phone. It lets you specify how you want to use your battery. Do you want to say you want to charge it all up and save it all for a power outage and not use the batteries at all, except for if there's a problem? You can do that. If you only want to save a certain percentage and run on that, you run on the panels except for a saved amount, you can do that. And it has this nice graphical display that shows what the house is using, what the panels are doing, and what's coming in from the grid. And I've been able to monitor this ever since they installed it in July and watch to see how the system worked and what it did. And it's really kind of neat because you can, like I said, you can pull up your app at any time and look at what it does. So what I have had it doing is I just let the panels generate its power, and it does generate a lot of power on sunny days. I can tell you as not surprisingly, on cloudy and rainy days, they do generate less power. And the house uses the panel power by the day. So it pulls down from the panels whatever power it generates, and it runs. Okay, it does save some of it. The interesting thing is that it does save some of it. It saves off a bunch to the battery, and sometimes it even pulls a little bit from the grid during the day to make sure that the battery stays at the minimum threshold that I've set on the app. Okay, and so it saves off the excess power, and then during the night, the house runs off the battery and then uses the excess power from during the day that it gets stored in the Tesla battery. And then if there's anything else that it still needs, it pulls from the grid. And it is good to be connected to the grid, because if your system has a problem, then the grid power is available. And like I said, if you happen to generate a ton of excess, then you can sell that back to the grid. If it's a really hot sunny day, not surprisingly, you generate the most power, but the air conditioning runs the hardest, so it uses a bunch of that. So this was all fun and good. We went into that Houston rainy season that we had just a few weeks ago, and I started to notice that we were pulling from the grid a little bit more than what I expected. But at the time, I just remembered how gray and rainy it was. And so at first I thought about it and I'm like, oh, it's just been so rainy, maybe that must be it. But then by the next month, I could see that there was a definite problem. And then all of a sudden it went to zero. So I contacted them and I said, hey, something's wrong. And so eventually we were able to have someone come out and take a look. And unfortunately, because now there's two companies, they both point fingers at each other. It's not me, it's him. It's not me, it's him. But they look at it and they discovered that brand new inverter box was just bad. It never was right from the time they installed it, and it's under warranty, and they just need to replace that box. And that's why, and unfortunately, without the inverter box, it's any power being generated out there right now is just being grounded. So Sonova ordered a new Tesla inverter box, and where we are right now is we are waiting for that box to come. The other thing that I'll mention about that is I caught it. I caught it by looking at this app and seeing that there was zero power coming in on a beautiful sunny day, and also by noticing that on the Sunrun app that power generated was zero, and also seeing a higher charge for the grid service. Originally, I was told if there were any problems, the app would notify me. The apps didn't notify me. So the other thing that you need to do is, even if you have the apps on with the notifications, I left the notifications set to on because they told me if there were any problems, it'll send you a notification. Even with the apps installed with the notifications on, I didn't get a problem. I identified the problem myself by looking at the data on the apps, and then to see things in more detail, I actually logged into their sites as well and took a look at some of the things they had posted on their websites from my account, and realized that something was really wrong and I needed to hunt them down. And so the one thing I would also recommend if you do this is make sure you have your apps, make sure you have your notifications on, and make sure you're monitoring your system so that you understand how it works. And when you see a problem like this, you can call them and say, hey, don't you think this is a problem? And then they look and they say, oh yeah, and after we got over the issue of, no, it's not me, it's him. No, it's not me, it's him. Then we were able to figure it out, and now we're just waiting for this to come. And I wish I could have made one more slide for you if the system was running the way it had been before, because the way this works, they have the software with the Tesla battery, and it really is very slick and very nice. And it figures out, all right, at this point, I should be adding a little more to the battery. At this point, I should be running off the panels, and you can turn it on and it'll show you this, and these lights move around, and it's very impressive looking. And you can watch it graphically show you how it's managing the power and what it's doing, and how it's going to do that. And it makes you a lot more independent of the grid. We're not 100% independent of the grid, but with the Jackery battery and the extra phone chargers, if we adjust the temperature settings on the heat and AC, we will be. So I'm real pleased. I'm real pleased with this. I'm looking forward to hearing from them, which basically will be any day now that the new inverter box is available for install, and we'll get it done and we'll go forward from there. The only thing is I was a little nervous because, you know, this system goes down and here comes Hurricane Nicholas. But Hurricane Nicholas was very mild here and we didn't have any problems. So it was really good. I'm really excited about this. I do recommend doing this. I think that as homeowners associations become more accustomed to getting these applications, they'll accept them more readily. And I think that those problems will start to go away. If you buy a new system, it automatically comes with the battery and you don't have to do this split company, make sure you have all this insurance and legal paperwork issues. You won't have any of that. It'll be one system, one company. And you won't have those issues either. This is just our personal experience based on starting in the 2017-2018 timeframe. And, you know, it's good. I'm looking forward to getting it running again and going on with this and seeing it do really well. All right.
Thank you, Ellen. This is really great, and thanks for sharing your experience. It's a little different, and it's in a way it's unique because it sounds like you have a system that it's a lease to own. And so you are not 100% leasing, and which can be complicated. And even this one for some average American, since on average, an American family owns a house and changes every 4 to 5 years. If you have a 20 years payout, it could be the sale of your house is complicated slightly with transferring ownership of this lease agreement to another owner. But if you plan to stay in your house and just own it forever, this is a really good deal, especially since the interest rates are down considerably. And even with Tesla Powerwalls, a similar thing, that the financing through Tesla is reasonable, very reasonable from what I've seen, the data, because being a member of the Tesla club, Tesla car owners have a tendency to buy into the ecosystem and go full solar with Tesla as well. And so I see that the financing is very reasonable and comparable to, or even lower than what you can get on a free market. But
what I would do if for some reason we needed to move or something, again, we were planning to pay off Tesla next year anyway, so that wouldn't be a problem. And then what we would do with the Sunrun, which goes on for 20 years, is that, and they put that in there, if you sell your home, the contract just rolls over to the next homeowner. So when they come in, they just pick up the same low rate. And then after 20 years, you own the panels. So you can either keep them, you can renegotiate another 20-year contract, or you could have them taken off. You know, it's up to you.
Right. So with being the real estate market as it is right now, and being on the market for past 6-8 months that we've been looking at various options, we didn't notice, at least not yet, we didn't notice the difference between the houses that had solar system on and the houses that didn't. But with the environment and the climate change effects into everyone's life, I think in future it would make sense that the houses with already existing solar system on them will stand out and will gain value. But that just FYI, that for right now it's either negligible or totally not identifiable. I've been looking and comparing various houses, and there was when we were looking, I liked the idea of having the solar system in there. It just didn't work out for us. But we are also thinking about installing one, again, to protect or minimize, mitigate potential issues in the future, regardless where the house is, what location, because I think so power outages are very possible just about in any part of the country. And having continuous power supply with the power walls is extremely important. It's to the family, to your well-being, and it's just this warm and fuzzy feeling that when you have everything working and you know you can rely on it. Thank you very much for presenting your journey. It's definitely helpful to see the success, even though right now we see the zero production at the moment. And that was the dip I asked in the beginning. Why is that? Now we know why, because it's out of production for the last 25 days.
Yes, inverter box failure. If you think about it, our speaker mentioned that in last week's presentation. He said the inverter box is very important.
Yes, you remember also, well, I had the discussion with him in the, I heard his earlier presentation elsewhere, and I don't think in our presentation he mentioned about different options, because there's a different configurations possible. So some a little bit more expensive when you have inverter box on 1 or 2 panels per, so it's a pair, and then but you have a multiple inverter boxes available installed, or you can have a one for the whole system. And so the benefit, yes, the initial financial burden is that it's a higher cost, but then fault tolerance is greatly improved, because you have, if something if there's a fault and the inverter box fails, then you only will have out of production that particular chunk of the power of your power grid in a way, versus to when you have one. It's cost effective, definitely. It's economical because it's only one time you paid for it for one box. But then if it's out the whole system, which is what you're experiencing right now. Yeah, unfortunately. Thank you for demonstrating the.
The other thing I would recommend is, I showed you a little picture of that Jackery solar battery that's big enough to power most of the appliances in an RV. And I highly recommend having that as a backup as well. And one of the things we've seen is that when they work on the system and they take the power out, because they're adjusting things with the, they were putting in the Tesla batteries, they took the power out for a while. Like my husband had that charged up, he was able to plug the router and the his computer upstairs, and he was able to work right through all their work. And when they brought the power back and everything was online, he had that. And it also takes some of the load off the Tesla batteries if you're really running hard on them. So I'd also consider having something. Jackery makes one, but then there's a Pioneer, I think, that makes another one.
Do you have a link maybe you can drop in for that particular item that you have?
Let me get it.
Because I think you're absolutely right. Just so during day, let's say, hypothetically speaking, even during cold, when we had cold, we still were okay during snow event. We still were okay in the house, but having the ability to connect to internet and do something, even a cursory search on the internet, and ask for what's going on, would be so beneficial. And yeah, having that Jackery box is to plug in router and have your basic computer laptop connected would be definitely an improvement for quality of life, because who can survive now without internet? Not me. I need to have internet.
I just put my link in, but you can take a look and you'll see when you pull that one up, go down to Amazon, other items. So other similar items, you know how Amazon will show you, they'll show you a couple different ones. This one was on sale at the time I bought it. But you can look and see what the best one is right now.
Yeah, it's still on sale at the $100 off, but the price is really impressive. But I guess that's what the price of mitigation and I want to make a connection to space. So since we are talking about the fault tolerance and mitigating various faults and having the quality of service. So most of you know that I'm working in avionics gateway, and so we talk about 3 different types of traffic, and we have one is the time triggered, which is reliable, 100%, will always be delivered. And then there's also rate constraint, and then there's the best effort. So best effort, for those that do not know anything about networking and avionics in general, best effort is what we all use on our computers, on our phones, and so on. And in most cases, internet is also using best effort. And in most cases, if a packet did not get delivered, it will rebroadcast or will get dropped. And in our normal day-to-day life, it's not an issue. But there are times when it's an issue. For instance, if the quality of network is going down, then you may experience the garbled, like you probably heard about so that someone talks on the other side of your line, and all you hear is just either first or last, or just portions, fragments of the conversation, and is impossible to understand what the other side of your conversation is actually trying to convey to you. So we had multiple times during some of our meetings on Gateway to demonstrate that when people would have the and so on, trying to make their point, that our networking team would always make a joke. And this is your best effort. That's what happens. And so how much do you want to experience the same on the station, on the gateway, and so on? But this is kind of a mitigation is always takes more. It always costs more, and it's in the upfront. It sounds like unnecessary expense. Like right now, I just looked and it's $1,500. Yeah, it's a big chunk, but those $1,500, I think, will be so much worse and feel so well spent at the time of whether it's a snowvid or any other future power outage, when you can sit with the computer with your uninterrupted router working and the internet continuing working, and you can investigate what happened with the system and the world, right? So anyway, thank you so much, and really appreciate it. Is there any other questions, or Ellen, do you need to go?
No, I can see what's, oh my goodness, it is time. Oh boy, I can hear my kids, so I'll stay for a little bit more, and then I think I'll probably ought to go have a good week.
Okay, well, I appreciate everyone to join today, and Ellen, especially you. Thank you for demonstrating the benefits and how easy it was to install solar system on your house. I wanted to also add that since 2017, I think there were a couple other legislations in place that the HOA, Homeowners Association, cannot refuse to install a solar system on your house. This is now considered as a basic amenity, and it has to be approved. You may have to work with the architectural committee, maybe to on a look, but even that is getting more and more adopted as far as the how panels look. And I think it's like everywhere else that they say you need 10% overall for the whatever idea to be okayed and acceptable. And after that, it's just a general acceptance. So as long as we have that 10% acceptability threshold passed, then after that, it's easy to gain approval just about anything. So yeah,
there's a tax credit too. I forgot to mention that right now, and our speaker mentioned it last week, this is the last year for the tax credit. So I'm planning on taking that paperwork from Sunnova and Tesla and writing it off my taxes next year.
As far as the tax credit, it's not exactly last year, it's the 26%, and it tapers down. I think next year is going 4% less. I think it's going to be at 22 and so on. But there is that big, huge bill right now in House that is one of the provisions to extend that to stay at 26%. We'll see exactly what will happen because the bill is really giganormous and it always changes that or stalls and but hopefully it's one of the benefits that and then there's also electric cars benefit promotion and then others. Yes. But yes, there's a big bill right now in House that is being considered. And so any other questions? I know that Charles, good morning, Charles, had joined us a little bit late.
Morning.
I will, great seeing you. I will put this on our YouTube chat and YouTube channel, and we'll see everyone next Saturday. Thank you very much for joining today. It's a bright and sunshiny day in Houston, and Houston, we have no problem today. So thank you so much for joining and have a great week. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you.